Hello, America. It's Friday, and we're going to try something for about a month and see if anybody is still watching at the end of the month. We wanted to do something on Fridays called Founding Fathers Fridays. You know, our Founding Fathers, most people don't even know who they really are anymore. They were once revered in this country as divinely inspired, courageous visionaries. But after the past 100 years, we've come to realize they're nothing but a bunch of old white racist heathens. The myth of our Christian founding has been obliterated, and at best we now know that maybe they were deists at best. Let me tell you how this all started. Woodrow Wilson. I hate that guy. Woodrow Wilson wanted to transform America along with Teddy Roosevelt. They were both progressives. The progressive movement had started. It was about 1915 to 1920. The whole thing was falling apart, and they couldn't get America to really go for it. They couldn't control Americans. They couldn't do it. They wanted to transform America, so they had to do three things. And tell me if they've accomplished them. One, undermine faith in religion. This is the point when social justice comes in. It's no longer about equal justice or about redemption, it's social justice. They got into our faith and our religion, they perverted it, they controlled it, they convinced us that we shouldn't be faith-going people. These people weren't. What, really, God? That's so yesterday. Then undermine the Constitution. Back at the turn of the century, people talked about the Constitution. You would go to places and people would say, I don't think you can do that constitutionally. How many times have you had that conversation outside of the last year? Most people don't even know it. People in Congress don't even read the Constitution. And the last one was, we had such an attachment to our founding fathers because we knew who these people were. I have to tell you, I grew up in Mount Vernon, Washington. And I remember George Washington because of a cherry pie eating contest. I cannot tell a lie. He didn't do that. Why would we use a lie to describe the most honest guy we had? We've perverted them. So if we want to fix our country, we have to fix our faith in religion, in ourselves. We have to read the Constitution and demand that it be followed. And we have to repair and restore our founders. Look, I'm going to start tonight with a man known at the time as the father of the American Revolution. Which one is that? This one. He's now all but forgotten. You probably know him for the beer. Oh yeah, Samuel Adams, I love him. He made beer, right? No, he didn't. I want to tell you a story tonight, and we have an audience here, and I have a couple of experts that are going to show you some stuff that you're going to learn more in an hour than you probably learned about American history whole time in school. With the help of a man named Stephen McDowell, I want to tell you a couple of stories. He's a historian from the Providence Foundation. But let me start here. First 2 years of the War for Independence. Americans had seen very few successes, many defeats. If you ever get frustrated or down in your life, if you ever think, I don't know, we're not going to make it, the Tea Parties, you just read about George Washington. George Washington lost every single battle he fought for over a year. During the opening stages of the war, loser, loser. By 1777, prospects were really looking bad. Little hope for the overall victory in the war. By September, the Army had been driven out of New York. I just read a book on George Washington and the crossing of the Delaware just the other day, and I was reading it again, and it talked about when Washington looked over the river and he saw New York, and it was over, and he wept. And his soldiers went, okay, the leader's crying, that's not really a good thing. We had lost everything. We had lost the Ticonderoga, upstate New York. And then September 11th. Yeah, there's another one. This time George Washington. He was defeated at the Battle of Brandywine in Delaware. We lost 200 soldiers. We had 500 wounded. 400 were captured. Now, keep in mind that we only had 14,000 troops. Okay? That's a huge defeat. And the troops, after this defeat, they were like, okay, you know what? I think we're on the wrong side here. We're losing. I don't want to die. The troops deserted, and the numbers fell to 6,000 troops. 10 days later in Pennsylvania, another 300 soldiers were killed or wounded, and 100 captured at Paoli massacre. Now, 2,500 total. There were only 20 members of the Continental Congress even standing together at this point. They decided to meet to see if they should even continue the struggle for liberty. They're now saying, okay, remember that Declaration of Independence thing? You know, maybe that was a bad idea. But there was one guy that was present, and he didn't have a beer. Instead, he had what's on the bottom of that: faith. He was the delegate from Massachusetts. He had been involved in the cause of independence from the very beginning. He had, by this time, earned the title Father of the American Revolution. Didn't make him popular with the British. This is for his leadership before the Stamp Act in 1765 and everything else. King George was well aware of Adams' leadership in the rebellion, placing a bounty on his head and sending troops to actually go out and capture him. I'm going to show you this. This is the London Chronicle. This is an actual copy of the London Chronicle, June 17th, 1775. I wish you could touch it because it feels like it's cloth. It doesn't feel like paper at all. But on the second page, I'm afraid to even open it. If you could see, it's so amazing. It's kept together by string, some of the things, by thread. This one, in this paper from London, it said the British had ordered an officer to go out and grab the military stores and the bodies of this man, Adams, and John Hancock. Can I tell you something? A year ago, I didn't know anything about Sam Adams until I read this book. This changed my entire outlook. Read this book. It's by Ira Stoll. He's here. We're going to talk to him in a little while. It's amazing. These guys had already suffered greatly for the cause. They knew if you're going to speak the truth and you're going to fight big power, you ain't going to come out of it unbruised. It's okay. They were willing to do it. The British virtually destroyed his home. He had to leave his family for long periods of time. He was in continual danger of capture and death, always. But Adams had a faith in God, and he had a faith in the cause of liberty, and that's what was needed, faith. He spoke to his fellow congressmen. This is after we lost in Brandywine, and things were looking bleak, and Congress gets together, and he stood in front of Congress, and he said, "Gentlemen, your spirits appear oppressed with the weight of public calamities." He then told them, you don't show that to the American people. He told Congress, quote, "Our affairs, it is said, are desperate. If this be our language, then they are indeed. If we wear long faces are going to become fashionable. The eyes of the people are upon us." Sam Adams knew that if Congress openly showed their fear to the people, the cause of liberty would be over. Because people will follow and say, it was like when George Washington wept. I don't think our leader should be crying. He also told them, now imagine, these are the people that signed the Declaration of Independence. These are the brave, brave people. He said, "We have proclaimed to the world our determination to die freemen rather than slaves. We have appealed to heaven for the justice of our cause, and in heaven we have placed our trust." How great is that? How many of us have that faith now where we can say, I trust you. I trust you. Our cause is just. He said, numerous have been the manifestations of God's providence in sustaining us. Then he said, in the gloomy period of adversity, we have had our cloud by day and our pillar of fire by night. That's Moses stuff. That's going to the land of milk and honey. How else would you describe America as it should be, not as what we've allowed it to become?